Hi everyone, it is your fearless leader Tom here, and this week I am going to be providing you with audiovisual critiques of your images. So to begin with this week, I am looking for you to use your camera to freeze up a subject and then using it to blur a subject. So those are the technical aspects of the assignment that I'm looking for. However, I also want to see that you guys are starting to push the envelope a little bit and come up with images that are unique, creative, and display some sort of personal point of view to them. So, with that being said, we are going to start out with Shannon's image here. And Shannon gives us a beautiful image of a bottle of wine being poured out into a glass. And to the naked eye here, I think this looks pretty frozen up. One thing we can do in Photoshop is we can go under File and pull up the File Info area. And in there, we will have some information about the camera settings. And we can see that her shutter setting was 1/400th of a second, which was pretty good to freeze up things. Her f-stop was 3.5, which is very logical. And then her ISO was 6400, which I think that was a good decision here because to get that shutter speed fast indoors, she did have to use the high ISO setting. But the one consequence of that is if we zoom into her image, we can see that there's a lot of noise in there. And the noise is that kind of like sandy, grainy, pixely texture in the background here. So we just have to remember when we do go up to a high ISO like that, you are going to sacrifice a little bit of image quality to get that fast shutter setting. So technically, I think you made all the right decisions here. Now on the creative end of things, kind of feels a little bit like a cliched type of shot. See a lot of images like this in the first couple weeks of classes. So again, I would just kind of encourage you to try and come up with something that is maybe a little less obvious and perhaps just a little bit more creative. The other thing I think aesthetically about this image, I wonder why you cut off the bottom of the glass here. Perhaps if we include the whole glass and part of that cork, it just provides a little bit cleaner edge to the bottom of this image. So good job on that one, Shannon. And then we go over to your other image, the picture of the stairs with the blur. Really love the blur that you've got going on in here. And I suspect that you had your camera on some sort of stable surface because we have the stairs and the railing and everything are in focus here. But the subject, which looks like it's a person running up the stairs, is pretty blurred. So well done on this. I think you kind of capture that chaos that we get in the hallways between classes, and especially with people sort of being late for class and running up and down the stairs. So I think both from a technical and a creative point of view did a really nice job with this image. And I especially love the fact that you're combining the blur with the frozen elements of the stair and the railing here. So good job on this one. Really like what you did here. And next up we have Sarah's images. Sarah provides us with a wonderful shot of a dance class, and what I think really makes this image is the beautiful juxtaposition of the teacher or the adult dancer against all the little ones who are kind of doing their own thing. We've got one that's sort of looking up at her, one that's looking over at her friend, one that's trying to imitate her, and one that's kind of off in her own world. And I think the combination of all those elements in this image work together to create a very compelling image. So creatively and narratively, I love what's going on here. From a technical point of view, your dancer does look like she's a little bit soft focused. So we can go ahead and we'll zoom in on her, and we look at the edges of her, and you can see that they're really not all that terribly sharp. So there's really two answers for why they're not sharp. The first answer could be the shutter setting, which it doesn't look like we've got any metadata embedded in the image here. So I'm just wondering if I can check and see what your setting is. Hold on a second. Okay, so it doesn't look like your settings are embedded into the file, but you do point out to me that the images from a new camera, so you are just getting used to using it. I suspect what has happened is your autofocus is not locked onto your main dancer here. So in the viewfinder, you can change the area that the camera is going to focus in on. Usually our cameras are set up so they focus directly in the middle of the frame. You can go to your instruction manual and just change that focus to where the focusing spot is hitting somewhere on her body here, and I think you'll have a little bit better luck. The other thing is you might have a slow shutter setting here. Without seeing your actual settings embedded in the file, I can't tell you for sure, but it seems to me that might be what the problem is to me. So just really work on making sure that your image is in focus, and if you can next time, share with us your shutter settings, because that will also help us figure out what's going on here in the image. And then we have your second shot where you've got our little dancer and she is blurred. And I think, again, this does a great job of telling us a story. And the fact that she's blurred gives us the indication that she's moving and she's trying to kind of work out her dance steps. And again, I think it's well done, very sound image for your first photograph right out of the gate here. And if you notice here, the kids in the background, they are in pretty good focus there. So I suspect that what happened in your first image here was just that your autofocus wasn't locking onto anything. So make sure that your autofocus is locking onto something before you actually go ahead and push the shutter. So to lock on the autofocus, we would just do a half press of the shutter release button. So when you depress it halfway, the autofocus engages and it should lock on to whatever spot that you want your focusing to take place in. So hopefully that helps, and of course if you have any questions, let me know and we'll help you through this. So good images, really like the narrative in your images, and I think creatively speaking you are where you should be. We just got to get a couple technical things ironed out here. And next up we have Molly's images. So for Molly's frozen shot, we can go into her settings, and let's see if we've got that info embedded. We look at the camera data here. No camera data for Molly either. Okay. So anyhow, I think you have pretty much nailed the frozen idea here. And I especially like the fact that you kind of capture that decisive moment where, her hair is just flying down right at the perfect angle. She's looking back into the camera, sort of eye to eye with the viewer. And then we've got the background that's kind of out of focus. So our attention really is drawn right to her face and the nice smile that we've got going on there. So everything well done in this image. I think you pretty much hit it out of the park here. Maybe the one thing before I close this out, maybe we could see her hands. I think that just might give us a little bit cleaner edge here. I'm not super crazy about the fact that we cut off right at her wrists. So maybe just opening up this frame just a little bit more would help us along. And then on our second image, we've got the blurred cat. Again, I think the addition of motion here really gives us a sense that that cat is kind of swiping at something, or grabbing for something, as cats are very wont to do. So you've done a good job with the technique here. The one caution that I would have for you, and that kind of extends out to everybody, uh, we get a lot of pet images in this class, and I certainly don't have anything against anybody taking their pet photos, but when we get to talking about creative concepts and really getting more out of your images, I think you probably want to take these type of photographs to a deeper level, a more creative level, something that is more interesting and perhaps less common. So, again, everybody seems to shoot their pets here, and in this case, I think you've done it really well, Molly. But just for everybody, if you are going to shoot your pets, make sure they are really, really good photos. So, Molly, well done here, and I think you're well on your way in this class. And next in our queue is Kaya's photos. So first image, we have a really long exposure, and during that long exposure, your subject went ahead and drew a heart with some sparklers. So I think this is a pretty challenging thing from a technical aspect to do, and I think you pulled that off pretty good. Again, this technique, I see it floating around a lot on Facebook, and people kind of having fun with it. And I love the fact that you've taken this opportunity to experiment with your camera and pull stuff off like this. Again, just want to caution you not to fall in the trap of imitating other people's images. Now maybe kind of take that one step further and see if you can do something a little bit different with the sparkler rather than just doing the heart shape on it. So I'll toss that out to you and see down the road here if you can kind of continue your growth with this technique and maybe do something a little different and new. So move on to the second image, which is your frozen image. Couple things going on here. Again, it looks to me like your autofocus hasn't locked onto the subject here. It looks like everything's out of focus here, where, for a frozen shot, your subject really should be sharp, and if we, zoom in, we can see that it's really not sharp at all. And the other problem is you're getting a lot of noise in this image. And if we go in and just check out your file info and your camera data, I guess we don't have any ISO settings, do we? See, everybody's using Nikons, but I don't see any ISO settings, so I can't speak to that. But my guess is that you're probably pretty high up there in ISOs, and that is one of the reasons your image quality here is really suffering. So this type of image, especially when you're starting out, is probably best done outside. The lighting outside is much brighter, and you're going to be able to get that shutter setting really high. And also your autofocus on your camera is going to have a little bit easier time locking onto your subject, because when it's dim inside the house, the autofocus doesn't have as bright of an area to focus in on, so it struggles a little bit more than it would outside. So again, this probably be a shot that if I was going to try it again, you might want to consider going outside and giving it a shot. So good job here with the experimentation. I think you nailed the blur thing. Frozen stuff got to work on the technical aspect of that just a little bit, and watch the ISO. You're definitely up in the upper reaches of image quality tolerances with your ISO settings. So look forward to seeing your stuff next week. So we'll finish up part one of our critiques with Junkie's images. And Junkie, just one quick note here. For the rest of the semester, I'd like you to submit your images as JPEGs, and then your reflections or your artist statements, if you could submit those in a separate document for me. And the reason for that is your image here, I can't work with it in Photoshop because obviously it's in a Word document. So if you could just do that for me, I would appreciate that. So we've got two separate images here, a blurred and a frozen image. So I guess what I would say about this image, and I think you acknowledge it in your statement here, is that the cars, we can't really tell whether they're moving or they're not moving. To me, they just look like they're parked. So the whole essence of this assignment is kind of put, in the back seat, if you pardon my pun here, because we really don't have something that is frozen up in time that we can, see this decisive moment that we would not normally see. And in fact, the more I look at this image, I probably would argue up that it really isn't frozen, because it looks like we've got a person in the right-hand corner here that is blurred. So, when you're choosing a subject to freeze up, we really want to freeze up something that is moving in a manner that is perceptible, and that when we see it in a photograph, we say, there's this pinnacle of action and movement that has been captured. Whereas in this image, I just don't see that. It's, kind of just parked cars. So, technically, I think you get the idea of what's going on here. But, I guess I want you to pick a little bit better subject matter to work with for the frozen end of things. Now, on the other hand, your blur shot, is really fantastic. I think you totally nailed the blur shot. I think sort of that chaotic essence of downtown is really captured, and all the streaks and blurs of the lighting and the cars at night all come through very crystal clear here. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful image, and technically you pretty much nailed it here. So again, just perhaps revisit, excuse me, that frozen up image, and I think you're well on your way here to creating some really good images in this class. So look forward to seeing your stuff next week.